Hello everyone, welcome back to the Spotlight on a huge couple of days of news for Manchester United after the Arsenal draw. I'm not even going to talk about the game this week. We're getting straight into the big topics of Jimmy's interview and the stadium announcement this morning. I mean, what can we say? And I'll touch on the stadium first, as that's the most recent thing that's come out. Obviously, we are looking to make a 100,000-seater stadium as the full regeneration of Old Trafford. I've got some images here. You can get straight into looking at them if you want to. It looks like a circus tent, some people are saying. There's a video on the actual Man United website you can go watch to show some more information on it. And yeah, you can go read it on the Man United website. I'm not going to sit here and talk over it. I'll just scroll through so you can see a couple of pictures of what it looks like and what people think it is going to look like. Obviously, Barada here, I'll just say this. Long-term objective of the club is to have the world's best football team in the world's best stadium. So INEOS, Barada and co are trying to clearly build Manchester United into a modern team with a modern infrastructure. They've said they're going to invest in Carrington. Clearly, the stadium is going to be here, probably going to be 5 years away. Obviously, the Manchester mayor, the government and everyone are involved. But in Sir Jim Ratcliffe's interview yesterday, words out of his own mouth were that Man United will pay for their own stadium. Couple of things I want to say about that, Jim. And I don't want to blame Jim here because, you know, I'm willing to give Jim the benefit of doubt and the INEOS until they've been here for 2 or 3 years, because you cannot blame them for everything that's going on when the Glazers and that have run this club into the ground for 10 to 20 years. And Jim, like he says on his interview, is taking the brunt of a lot of it. Some of it rightly so, a lot of it wrongly so, in my opinion. But a couple of caveats to building this stadium. £1-2 billion stadium is what we're looking to probably build here from the ground up. In his interview yesterday, as I said, he said Manchester United would be paying for their own stadium. Well, you also said in that interview, Jim, and I'm not blaming you here, the Glazers and that to blame as well. We were nearly bankrupt at Christmas. We're totaling nearly £1 billion in debt. Where is the funds coming from to fund this stadium? That is the question I think most fans probably have on their lips. And obviously, there will be investment from other outside parties, companies, sponsorships into this. And there probably will be some funding by the government to help with the area and the surrounding area and get it ready for the stadium to be built. But still, £1 billion in debt. We're 15th in the league. No Europe. Apparently nearly bankrupt. Where is this money coming from within the club to build this? Because we cannot be putting the club in more debt to build this stadium. And hopefully some of that information will come out over the next week or two about where the money is coming from. What do I think about building a new stadium over renovating Old Trafford? Mixed feelings on it. I'm 42 years old. I went to Old Trafford as a kid loads of times with my late dad. It's got a lot of memories for me. Old Trafford, going there, some great times, some great experiences. Obviously, being as an adult on my own, the experience of Old Trafford, I think as a modern stadium, when you go to other modern venues and stuff, Old Trafford's run down, old, tight. The concourses are terrible. The seating is terrible. I'm 6'4". For me to sit in a seat at Old Trafford is nearly impossible without kneeing someone else in the head. as much as I don't want to say it, I do believe we need a new stadium. And I know there's a lot of other people and one of the major fan channels out there moaning about the knocking Old Trafford down and the history, and I get it. I totally and utterly get it. And about new stadiums don't always take you to success. Like, look at Arsenal, and obviously Liverpool have regenerated Anfield, and Real Madrid have renovated the Bernabeu. Anfield probably hasn't been as regenerated in the past as Old Trafford has. Every corner of Old Trafford has been built on. To rebuild Old Trafford, you basically have to knock half of it down and rebuild it again anyway. And maybe some people prefer that. Actually, I would probably prefer that. But the reality of it is a new stadium is probably the most sensible route to go. And hopefully they'll keep some of those parts in the history of Old Trafford somewhere that can build some of Old Trafford back into the new stadium. As for the pictures with the canopies and that, it does look a bit like, to me, like a glorified festival tent. I'm not going to lie. I've been to a lot of music festivals in my time over the years, and that's what it reminds me of. I'm not going to lie. A music festival tent. I mean, what else do you want me to say about it? That's what it looks like. But if you watch the video on the Old Trafford website, which is here, on the actual official statement, I'm not going to play it. Well, I'm not copyrighted anyway, so I'll play it. Who cares? My channel don't make any money, so it doesn't really matter if I get a copyrighted strike. So you can't skip it. But anyway, I'm not going to play it all, to be fair. But it's Gary Neville voicing over this about Manchester. And then towards the end, there's some quite good images of what the new stadium will look like. And the canopy actually goes out way beyond the stadium to cover all the concourse areas all around the stadium, because if anybody's not from Manchester or has never been to Manchester, it rains all the time. So it's like a huge undercover area encompassing the stadium and a huge area around the stadium. So I don't actually mind that, to be honest, because on match days and other times when you're not in the stadium or before the game or whatever, at least there's somewhere sheltered to be. You're not going to be underneath the pouring rain waiting to go into Old Trafford. There will be a huge canopy underneath it where you can stand stage right, probably go to the shops, whatever else is around and under there. But it's worth a quick watch, this video, and obviously read the statement in full yourself. And that is my take on the stadium. Do I really want a new stadium? Not in particular. Do I think one's necessary? Yes. The big question is, where's the money coming from? On to Jim's interview now and my opinion on it. My opinion on the interview is, at least Jimmy's out there doing these interviews, because previous owners have never done it. So whether you like the interview or you don't like the interview, at least he's talking. That's point one. Point two is, I think he's pretty honest in the interview overall. I think he's open. He answers the questions. Some of the questions he bumbles around because he probably wasn't directly involved in some of the decisions, which I get. He's an owner of the club who was basically brought in management underneath him to make some of these decisions. Yes, he will be involved in the huge decisions around Man United, but I don't want to say more trivial decisions, but decisions like taking money away from canteens and the £40,000 away from legacy charities. He's probably aware it's happening, but he won't have been involved in the very minute detail of making those happen. And Gary Neville pressed him on it in other ways that could have made the money, and he agreed. So maybe that will be put back in the future. Who knows? But The most interesting parts for me were the talk about Erik ten Hag, why they kept him, why they sacked him, and why it ended up being a mistake. And to be honest with you, I agree with him. They had barely been in the club. We were having a horrendous season. We won the FA Cup. After we'd won the FA Cup, I wasn't one of them, but a lot of the fans said he should be given another go, Ten Hag. Does that mean Jim shouldn't have sacked him? No, but there was a lot of the fan base at the time who was saying Ten Hag deserved another chance after that FA Cup final. You can't sit here and deny that. I wanted Ten Hag gone. There was a bunch of other people who did, but there was a lot of fans out there saying Ten Hag should have stayed. Jim says they made a decision based on the management he'd brought in and himself had not worked together long enough to make a big decision like that. And was it Erik failing or the club failing? So they decided to give Ten Hag the benefit of the doubt, like a lot of the fan base did. Remember this, you was probably one of them who wanted Ten Hag to get another chance, and now you're pretending Jim was wrong for keeping him. They invested a load of money in Ten Hag in the summer. It went wrong and he sacked him, obviously. He's admitted, in hindsight, they should have sacked him in the summer or before the summer. That's fine. People make mistakes. He's admitted it at least. He's not swerved the question or said, oh, well, we decided this, that and the other. He's basically said it was a mistake, and fair play to him for saying it. Has it set us back massively with the investment in the summer? A lot of people are still out there saying the players we bought in that summer are some of our best players now. Mazraoui, De Ligt, Xerxes, probably not. But, you know, so sacking him was obviously set to probably cost us 10, 20 million to get rid of Ten Hag and all of his staff. The Dan Ashworth thing, he also basically admits was a massive mistake. He glosses over it, basically saying it's a clash of personalities, a misunderstanding, and it just wasn't going to work, so they got rid of him. He admitted it was a mistake. Fair play. At least he's honest enough to say that he's making mistakes and he's not making political answers and dodging the question. He's open and honest enough to say he's made 2 big mistakes so far. The Glazers and how he talks about them running the club into the ground and the previous management, as in Murto, Arnold and Woodward, and how he excuses the Glazers a bit because they weren't the direct management of the company. And people will probably hammer him for that. But like Jim and his decision that I've just mentioned about the charities and some of the decision making, some of that decision making is made be underneath them, as in Arnold, Murto, Woodward. Especially probably on playing staff and that, which he talks about how we overpaid for too many players under the previous regime, and we need to pay £89 million of that back this summer before we even can get into a summer of buying players ourselves. So is he protecting the Glazers? He's definitely a Glazer front. The direction of the fan base has gone away from the Glazers and onto Jim. They've sidestepped, swerveballed everything the Glazers. Jim has come into the club, seen it failing, seen us financially on the floor, and he's trying to do something about it, in my opinion. What was the other option? Don't say full sale, because it wasn't an option. Qatar seemed to be a myth. Jazim seemed to not be a real person. No proof of funds, no proper interviews, nothing, no seriousness from Qatar, in my opinion, about buying the club. Would I have wanted a full sale and debt cleared? Yes, whoever it was. But the options were these. Jim and INEOS, or an American investment company to work alongside the Glazers to take us absolutely nowhere. At least Jim has gone in and got Barada, Wilcox, Vivell, who know football, who are from reputable big clubs around the world, who have built teams and know what they're doing. There's no way Jim can come into this club and turn it round in a year. And people will probably say I'm a Jim scapegoat, I'm a Jim excuser. And I'm not saying I don't want a full sell. I'm not saying anything he's done is particularly right, or there's a lot of stuff that's wrong. There is. But the club is on its knees financially and on the pitch. Somebody had to go in there and make some tough decisions. And all I'm saying is right now, Jim is making those tough decisions. People don't like it. If in 3 years we're no better off, we're still down there in 8th or 10th in the Premier League, we're not in Europe, we're not spending money, there's no progress, then I will call him out. He's recovering 20 years of mismanagement and he's been there a year. Remember that. The bankruptcy thing, saying it basically, we would have gone bankrupt last December without his investment. How true do you think that is? I don't know. Would Man United have gone bankrupt? I think probably what would have happened is we wouldn't have gone bankrupt. We would have been clearing out the players like we are and would have been spending nothing in the summer. With what Jim and everyone's doing now, we might actually be able to spend a bit of money in the summer. He's talked about past recruitment and how they're paying for the past management failures, buying overpriced players. And he named them: Anthony, Casemiro, Højlund, Sancho. 4 players who were 70, 80 million pounds, who are all flops we are paying for now, and all should be out the club, like it or not. Way overpriced, way overwaged, and the club is paying for it year on year because we can't get rid of them now. And that's what Jim is alluding to here. I think he's alluding to people like Woodward, Murto and Arnold mismanaging this club prior to him being in because they weren't football people. And whether you think Jim knows loads about football or not, at least he's hired football people under him, Barada, Wilcox, Vivell and co, to make the right decisions. And if they don't make the right decisions, we will find out in 2 or 3 years and then we can come down on them. This is not a thing that can be recovered in 5 minutes. People need to remember that. He talked about Amorim, how he likes Amorim. He seemed positive about Amorim, which I'm happy to hear, actually. I mean, you know, they always say they back the manager and all that lot, don't they? And then the next day they're sacked. But to me, Jim, in that interview, seems to be blaming the players not being good enough over Amorim, which I'm very happy to hear. So it looks like Jim and that is on board with clearing the decks of the players before the manager. And let's hope that continues, in my opinion, from an on-pitch perspective. He talked about the tickets, the ticket price rises, saying there's a few things in this, and I picked out a few things because there's a bit about like being a real fan and all that lot. So I want to talk about that after the ticket prices. But he talked about like how they were selling tickets that had been resold or sent back for 66 quid, and it's a very small percentage of tickets. But there will be concessions again, and they're looking into making concessions for kids and OAPs again, which they absolutely should. It's the future of the club, getting kids through the door. People can't afford to be paying 66 quid for the cells to go and 66 quid for the kid to go. Kids' tickets should absolutely be cheaper. No doubt about that. 100%. Even if the half price, make them 30 quid or something. I don't know. Don't know what a kid's ticket price costs now or in the past. But they should be significantly discounted from an adult ticket. He said season ticket prices and ticket prices will go up. But a small percentage, not like the full £66. And I've said from the start, the way that they talked about the ticket prices going up to 66 quid, it wasn't every ticket. It was tickets people had bought and then decided they didn't want to go to games, so they resell them at a higher value. Whether you say that's right or wrong, it's probably still wrong, but it's not 75,000 tickets going for that price, is it? But getting onto the real fan thing and about what people class as real fans, and I think I've listened to this quote a couple of times, and I think he's having a dig at a very specific set of fans here. Not everyone, not foreign fans, not local fans, not fans who travel. I think he's having a dig at probably the massive percentage of season ticket holders who only go to the big games, and every other game they're selling tickets to make money themselves. So if you understand what I'm saying there, that if I'm a season ticket holder, which I'm not, I don't know how much a season ticket costs, say 1,500 quid. You go to 5 or 10 games a year, all the big ones, and the other 10, 15 games you're selling off for at a profit. So you're buying your season ticket, picking and choosing what games you want to go to, and selling every other ticket to make money back. And I think that is where Jim's pointing the finger at there. He's not saying that season ticket holders that go to every game are not real fans. He's not saying tourists aren't real fans. He's not saying people who buy these tickets and go on a one-off occasion isn't a real fan. He's talking about the people who are buying season tickets and going to maybe 5 games a season and selling the other 15 for money. And he's asking basically what he's saying is, if you're going to buy a season ticket and resell it, the price is probably going to be higher to resell it, and it's going to be harder for you to sell your tickets because you should be going to games if you're a season ticket holder. I think that is what he's secretly saying there. Not that nobody's a real fan or this, that, and the other. I think he's digging out fans with season tickets who are selling 75% of the tickets to make money themselves. Like it or not, that's the way I read that. Go listen to it again. He's very specific about people who go into 5 games and selling the rest of the tickets. And what do I think about Jim from it? I said it a bit at the start. I think he's pretty open and honest. Doesn't seem to be particularly scripted. He's quite brutal in some things. He comes across that he don't know a lot about some of the decisions in other things. But the crux of the matter to me is we've got an owner who's got football people in underneath him, and he's trying to do something about rescuing the club from the financial disaster that it's in. Do I agree with some of the stuff? The job cuts, ticket prices, canteen, charities getting cut? Obviously not. But from what he was saying yesterday, we're in such a hole that some of this has to be done. And like I say, I'm not an INEOS excuser, and I'm not pro INEOS. Right at this minute, I'm balanced in the middle. I don't like some stuff and I like other stuff. I will judge them in 2 more years' time, and I'll see where we are then. And if we're still in the same position, no further on, I will be calling it out. But right now, I'm on the fence with liking or disliking. The summer is massive. Like, if we don't have a good summer and we end up 10th or less in the league again with no Europe, Amorim will get sacked. And then you can maybe start to question INEOS in another year's time about where the progression really is. If you've got this far in the video, if you've got any opinions of your own, leave them down below. Like me, don't like me, subscribe to me. It's all about opinion. Leave yours in a comment, please, and I will get back to you on the next video if any more information comes out or about the next game or anything. But this is huge for Man United, this last couple of days, announcements and interviews, and it really has stirred a pot with a lot of people. Some people are pro, some people are against. I'm indifferent. Tell me where you are, and peace.